Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. What is going on? Thank you very much for being here. Thursday, May 8th, 8 a.m. on the dot. Got a busy show for everybody. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thank you for hanging out part of the show. Coffee to my left, some tea to my right. I came well equipped this morning. I came well equipped. Actually, I guess you could say tonight because I go all day because I got these. I'm equipped today. I'm ready to go. I don't know how you guys rolling in with your morning. I go coffee and I go tea. You know, I gave up coffee for 50 days, and then all of a sudden, now, tea is incorporated in my mix. What am I supposed to do? I got to incorporate tea in here. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Got a fun show lined up. Appreciate the support. Appreciate everybody already throwing some comments into the comment here. So thank you very much for doing so. Somebody said they go coffee and water. You're right about the water. I mix in the water. Water comes a little bit down. By the way, I should be drinking lemon water right out the gate. I didn't do that this morning. All right, let me throw a quote to everybody here, and then we'll get the show started. I like this one. Let me find where it was here. An important attribute of success is to be yourself. Never hide what makes you, you. An important attribute of success is to be yourself. Never hide what makes you, you. Really, really good quote there. If you guys got something you want to share with the group, want to share with the community, awesome. Feel free to do so. I'm going to throw one reminder here. I haven't been doing a good enough job of just reminding people about opportunity to be an MVP member on the channel. You can pay $3 a month to support the channel. There's plenty of ways to support the channel. One way of doing it is just hanging out here on these live shows, or obviously clicking anytime I do a show. Another way is to subscribe to the channel. Would greatly appreciate that as we try to get to 32,000 subscribers. And then the last way, if you want to find a way to be a part of the channel as well, I'm going to put a link right here. You can feel free to be a part of the live shows that we do them for MVP members. We do them every Friday. And then also just something to keep in mind, if you are a member, it's just a great way to support the channel. And obviously I'll do everything I can to use any resources to go back to the channel. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. All right, I got a quote here from somebody. Somebody's dropping in some quotes here before I get to the topics today. Do have a guest today, so we got a lot to get. Man, I love this. I don't know why I love this. I think it's so funny to me. Knicks Nation. How many people here have been? I grew up the north side of the Bronx, right near Brooklyn. That's where I grew up. I don't know if you guys knew that. Yeah, the 5 boroughs. We're all part of the 5 boroughs. Knicks Nation. I'm with everybody on that one. Damn, how crazy is that? How crazy is those first 2 games? We're going to talk a little bit about it as I go through the rundown. I will tell you guys this. One of the things that I've discovered this week that means the freaking world to me. Man, I love that a lot of you guys are also here just for NBA conversations. That to me is like, if I can get people to come here, yes, to hear a lot of Lakers and everything else, but on top of that, come here to talk NBA, mission accomplished with this channel. Mission accomplished. Still got a long ways to go. Quote, successful and unsuccessful people do not vary greatly in their abilities. They vary in their desires to reach their potential. Phenomenal quote. Ocean Breeze, thank you for sharing that. By the way, what a great name. Ocean Breeze. That's your name on YouTube? Damn, I'm jealous. I'm going to do Ocean Breeze 1111. I'm just going to rip that one from you. Just steal it right out the gate here. Don't let nobody who hasn't walked in your shoes tell you how to lace them. Ooh, I like that. That one reminds me. There's another quote out there. Don't ask directions from someone who doesn't know where you're going. Kind of those are equivalent there, but I like that one a lot. All right, let me give everyone a quick rundown what we got going on for the show this morning. Thank you again for hanging out. Knicks up 2-0 on the Celtics. Knicks Nation. This has become a Knicks podcast. I mean, I got people from all the boroughs coming in here. My dad grew up on 47th and Manhattan, right there, right in front of Wall Street. Knicks go up 2-0 on the Boston Celtics. I want to spend a little time talking about that. I think that series, obviously a lot of Laker fans on here that are just going to hate watch. Yeah, I'm kind of one of those, you know. If you can't get what you need, you might as well just start watching others fail. There's my new quote. There's my new quote right there. You know what's crazy? I was thinking about this morning. This thing's up for grabs. I mean, I'm going to play out scenarios for you of what we already got so far in the playoffs. The championship's up for grabs, which makes me think more and more of the Lakers and how quickly they kind of screwed things up for themselves. Get that lighting a little better here. How quickly they screwed things up for themselves. But the championship it's up in the air. And, the Lakers, they're obviously not going to be part of the mix, but there's a lot of teams out there right now that are waking up this morning and feeling a certain way about themselves in regards to potentially competing for a championship. Trevor Lane of Lakers Nation is going to join us in about 10 minutes. My guy, Trevor Lane, one of the busiest man in the game, always grinding. So we'll have good conversations with him. I put up a Reaves video yesterday. We did a show here we did a topic yesterday about Austin Reaves, and I was throwing the question out there, hey, should the Lakers, should they shop Austin Reaves? I want to read some of those comments. A lot of comments on it. If you're getting close to 100 comments on one YouTube video, that means it's a topic that's very engaging. So I want to spend a little time on that YouTube video from yesterday. Rich Paul talked about the AD Luka trade. I thought he actually said something that was a really, really good point in regards to the trade and just some thoughts and some feelings on it. We'll get into that. And then we'll briefly talk about OKC blowing out Denver yesterday, Minnesota versus the Golden State Warriors, game 2 coming up tonight. A little update on Steph Curry and his injury, and then we'll call it a day. So thank you for being here. Please subscribe to the channel. Cheers to whatever you're drinking this morning. It's a nice cup of Joe. You know what I mean? I don't need much in the morning. Give me a nice cup of coffee and I'm good to go. All right. Let's Slee brought out the hater. Slee brought out the haters yesterday. I don't know if it's bringing out the haters. I think, people are entitled to their own opinion. If they got a thought about Austin Reaves, I mean, listen, I hesitate if I told you with a straight face, hey, I think the Lakers, it's a championship roster if Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves are your starting backcourt. I hesitate with that. I mean, think about that for a second. You got to have the rest of your roster better be freaking flawless. You got to have guys that play both sides of the ball. And, obviously that wouldn't be the case with the Lakers. I'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's hit on the NBA here real quick. And again, I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. New York Knicks. Here's what happens with me during the playoffs. There are times where I'm watching this game from start to finish. And there's other times where I might be driving around taking care of some things. I got, NBA Sirius XM. So I got the NBA channel. So I listen, I consume a lot on the Sirius XM channel. And anytime I got long drives, I'm like, let me throw it on. Well, during the playoffs, they're throwing on the games, and typically they'll throw on the post-game show as well, things along those lines. So I find myself in the car a lot, listening to games, everything else. I tune in real quick for Knicks and the Celtics, and I'm like, all right, well, Celtics tied up the series. They're up 20. This thing's over. Just like, everybody else thought after game 1. After game 1, it was, same old story. Knicks are down 20. This team looks a lot better on paper, but they don't got a shot against the Boston Celtics. I remember when the Knicks traded for Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, they started putting the roster together. It's like, that's a squad. On paper, I'm like, this is a freaking squad. This is as good as it gets in the NBA. And then, as the regular season goes and they get dominated by the Boston Celtics, I think they had lost 8 of 9 to the Celtics if you go back, last year as well. And clearly Boston had their number. They're down 20 in game 1 and they come back. And the storyline out of game 1 was, but if you look, the Celtics missed 45 threes. By the way, they missed 45 threes. Some of that is also on Boston. It's like, all right, you want to drive the ball to the basket at all, or do you just want to keep jacking up threes? Well, in today's NBA, apparently nobody makes any adjustments, and you keep jacking up threes. New York comes all the way back. Jalen Brunson is a killer, by the way. That dude is an absolute killer. And I can only imagine Dallas Mavericks fans saying to themselves, we had Luka and Jalen Brunson, and we got rid of both of those players. Brunson is clutch. Brunson is creative. Brunson is, you know how many times people say, he's going to go left. Make him go right. Yeah, people know that. They understand that. And he's very creative with how he gets buckets. Yesterday, Mikal Bridges hit some big shots. But anyway, let me go back to game one real quick. They come all the way back. They get to overtime, and it's like, all right, they'll probably end up losing in overtime. They win game one. And there were people on the spectrum that were widely one way or the other. It was like, give the Knicks all the credit in the world, or it was give Knicks no credit, and the Celtics just folded. They'll come right back. Game two, they're down 20 again. And all of a sudden, they start chipping away at the lead. If I'm right here, I think it was a 22-1 run by the New York Knicks to then give themselves a 3-point lead against the Boston Celtics. And then, a couple possessions, Tatum gets a dunk. They come back. Drew Holiday fouls Jalen Brunson. And then they get a stop, and it's Mikal Bridges again with another great defensive play to kind of end that game. He gets a block on Jason Tatum. He throws the ball the other side of the floor, and they're up 2-0 on the Boston Celtics. And you already got the Cavs, who are injured. I think, that's something I'll keep emphasizing, but they also blew a 7-point lead, whatever that was, late against Indiana. You got Boston and Cleveland that are both down 0-2 in the Eastern Conference. What? Just an incredible game yesterday. The NBA playoffs have been fantastic. And, I know people have been saying, did you know that the NBA ratings are down this much, whatever this percentage, since the Lakers are? I don't know what the numbers are. I know this. If you're an NBA fan, watch some of these games, because there's been some good basketball, some exciting games, some really big comebacks. Not every game. You could see Denver and Golden State, or Denver and OKC yesterday. Okay, that game was over. There was really nothing to watch in the entire second half. But unbelievable to see New York up 2-0. They win 91-90. A couple quotes from yesterday. 2 games were up 20 points. Somehow end up not with wins is inexcusable. That's what Jaylen Brown said. Look at this. Fourth quarter for the Boston Celtics. They go 4 for 21 from the field in game one. They go 5 of 24 in game two. There was a stat that was so eerie how similar these two stats were. I think, if I'm right here, Boston was up 73-53, and they were up 75-55 and lost both of those games against the New York Knicks. So just phenomenal. I guess there's a reason why Jalen Brunson won Clutch Player of the Year. And here we are. Everybody just kind of kicking back, sitting here, and you got the freaking Knicks up 0-2. Here's what happens, and I think this is very common. What's very common, I think, I think from a Laker perspective, is anything that happens, you start tying it back to the Lakers. And yesterday, for example, I'm just going to use this as an example. The Boston Celtics lose again, and you're like, all right, well, if the Lakers can't win, at least the Celtics can't either, right? Like, that kind of goes into your mind. I watched the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Golden State Warriors a couple days ago, and I never felt more insecure about the Lakers watching Golden State dismantle Minnesota, and they did it basically without Steph Curry, other than maybe 13, 14 minutes, whatever he played. And I'm watching yesterday, and I couldn't help kind of realizing something. It is what it is. Lakers are out, and Minnesota deserve to win that series. And if they probably all play again, Minnesota's going to win again in 5 games, maybe even 4. Who knows at this point? But this is what I noticed yesterday. The championship in 2025, it feels like, is completely up in the air. Celtics are down 0-2. Steph Curry is out for at least a week, and nobody has any idea when he's going to come back. The Thunder and the Nuggets, I'll still give Thunder the edge in that series. That series tied 1 apiece. They obviously had a crucial, a back-breaking loss that they suffered in game 1. Cavs are down 0-2 in their series. I mean, if there's ever a time a team like the Knicks, or a team like the Pacers, or a team like Minnesota, or a team kind of go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, doesn't it feel like it's wide open? I picked the Celtics to win the championship because I did feel like everything's still going to run through Boston. And here they are now down 0-2. Just an incredible start to the playoffs. Unfortunately, the Lakers are not part of the mix. But with all that being said, it feels like this thing is wide open. And those are kind of my quick thoughts from the game yesterday. All right, let me get my buddy in here, Trevor Lane, waiting here, ready to go. Trevor Lane of Lakers Nation.
Morning, Alan. Long time no see, buddy.
Yeah, long time. How you been? How's the family?
Yeah, we got some catching up to do. That's for sure. It's been an eventful last 10 hours here since we did our show last night. But hey, I love the Celtics conversation because right now, look, we are living vicariously through the Knicks, and that's a good place to be in right now when they're up 2-0.
All right. So for those who don't know, yesterday Trev asked me yesterday. He's like, "Hey, you busy? Come on and do a little show." So we did a show last night. And I think we went on at 9 or so. So go over to Lakers Nation if you guys want to hear that conversation. Very interactive. A lot of people throwing out questions, and Trev obviously does everything he does to answer those questions. So here we are this morning. Yeah, it's kind of funny. And I don't, some people, everybody's got a different way of watching sports. And if your team is out, it's like, I know a lot of people are completely out. They're like, all right, if my team's gone, I'm not watching any sports. I'm done. I got nothing to watch. You and me, probably a little bit different. I think part of us too, just for the job, we're constantly kind of tuned into the NBA, but I also think we just love the NBA and we're watching a lot of these games anyways. If you'd have told me the Celtics are down 0-2 to the Knicks, I mean, I don't own any Knicks gear, but I will go on NBA.com today. If I got to go figure out a way to I'll go get a Dudley jersey. I'll go get. I mean, you tell me how far back you want to. I will get Dudley. I have no problem with
that. Shaq's favorite.
Yeah, Shaq's favorite. Exactly. I mean, I'll go book a trip right now to New York. I mean, I'm ready for Game 3.
Yeah, it's obviously we love basketball. We're going to be watching the games, regardless. But it's not as fun, of course, as when the Lakers are. A lot of people have been saying this is the greatest playoffs ever. Well, from the NBA's perspective, it would be the greatest playoffs ever if the Lakers and Warriors were playing right now, because oh my God, everything would be going crazy. But
do you remember David Stern's famous quote?
If the Lakers could play the Lakers.
Yep. He said, what is your dream finals? He said Lakers versus Lakers.
Yep, exactly. They are the marquee franchise. They are the big draw. But in lieu of the Lakers being there, this has been a pretty crazy playoffs. And who would have thought at this point that the Cavs and the Celtics would both be down 0-2 after playing 2 games at home? Now, the Cavs, I think a lot of it is injury related, but still, from within the first month of the season, right, where maybe it took a few weeks for us to go, oh, the Cavs are those guys this year. That's that team this year. They're this good. It was, okay, it's Cavs Celtics Eastern Conference Finals. We know where this is going. And now all of that is thrown in. We could have Knicks Pacers, and I would love it, Alan, because that would mean the Celtics are not there. I enjoy a good hate watch. We're watching just to root against a team, and there's nobody better to root against than the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I'll get Rick Smits, and then I'll go Dudley. I'll get both of them. I will. I don't hesitate with my.
Those are deep pulls there.
Yeah, maybe I have this like passion towards these players that I didn't even know about. I didn't even know if I had that passion. And I would say this too, what you just mentioned about it could be Pacers and the Knicks. What's crazy to me too is just kind of looking around the NBA right now. Listen, maybe I'm being too dramatic that this thing's wide open. But listen, if the Celtics aren't in the mix here, and I still think, a lot of people are going to pick the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think what's going to be very interesting over these next 2 games in Denver, are you going back to OKC tied to a piece? And if you are, there's a lot of pressure still on the Oklahoma City Thunder to kind of figure out, this is uncharted territory for a lot of their players. But you kind of look across the board here, you can have 3-4 different teams potentially raising the Larry O'Brien in mid-June. And maybe it's not a team that any of us, predicted.
Mm-hmm. Well, welcome to Adam Silver's paradise, right? This has been the goal. It's been parody, right? Parody in the NBA. That's what he wanted, more of an NFL style feel. If you even look at you look at the way the collective bargaining agreement is structured and what the tough, like there's a lot of stuff going on over the last, couple of weeks now about how the Celtics are going to have to break up this team, about how they're going to have to make some difficult choices. That's exactly what the NBA wants. They want there to be a life cycle of a team where you're gonna grow. You get up to the top. You don't stay there forever because we got to engage the other fan bases too. You're making tough choices. Guys are going to drop off your roster. You're going to drop down. You find some young talent. You cycle back up, and around we go. And that way you don't wind up with a situation, ideally, where you have a team like, say, Sacramento that misses the playoffs for 17 straight seasons. They don't want that. They don't want fan bases checked out like that. They want everybody to feel like, hey, we either got a shot or we're a few years away from having a shot. That's the goal. And then they want that uncertainty. They don't want everybody to feel like in October, oh, it's this team and this team in the finals, and that's it, and nothing's going to change that. So in that sense, this is exactly what the NBA has been asking for at the expense of, I think, super teams, which were to a degree legislated out with the new collective bargaining agreement. And so the question is going to be, is that actually better for the league or not? But this is exactly what they were hoping for. This is exactly what the new collective bargaining agreement was designed to create. And we'll see what the results are.
Yeah, it's going to put a lot of pressure on front offices, right? You're trying to build something that's sustainable. You're going to take risk and take chances. At the same time, I get where they're coming from. It shouldn't. And listen, I'm sure there's Laker fans who are, oh, that's stupid. All right, I get it. Obviously, Laker fans want what's in the best interest of the Lakers. And the Lakers are actually not a good example of a franchise because they are the franchise that if they are in the mix every year, people will be watching. And that's kind of similar to, you can maybe go back and look at the Dallas Cowboys, or you can go look at the New York Yankees. There's a few franchises that are like that. But it's going to be interesting, obviously how it all plays out. And that's up to, look, if you're Rob Pelinka and you're the Lakers front office, you got kind of a gift with Luka. All right, go figure it out. Go build whatever you need. And maybe you can combat some of that stuff and, obviously get the best of both worlds. All right, we're sitting here. It's May 8th. The start of the second round, most of these teams are about 2 games in, something along those lines. Are we really sitting here without Lakers basketball? Okay, let me put it this way. I don't know, and you and I, obviously we connect a lot. There's a lot of times we'll text during games. Of all the scenarios you could have told me, if you'd have told me Lakers would be out in 5 games against Minnesota, I would question your integrity. I would question your knowledge of the game of basketball, and I would question if you've been watching any of the Lakers play this year. What the hell happened?
Yeah,
because I questioned everything about my basketball knowledge. I thought I was like, what's going to happen? Everyone's going to just say, Al, we appreciate your effort, but we're going to go ahead and unsubscribe because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. What the hell happened?
I think it was a combination of things here that took out the Lakers. I do think ultimately, right, when the Luka trade first happened, we said, all right, this team is going to take a step back defensively. They're lacking size in the middle. Those two things are going to prevent them from going where we want them to go, right? Then we played for a few weeks. And we're like, oh my God, their defense is actually one of the top-rated defenses in the league. They
can win without a big.
Yeah, they're figuring it out. And my big concern was, okay, they can do it, but they don't have the option of going. They only have one way they can play. And we talk about playoff success, and you have to be able to adapt to any situation and play different styles. That was my big concern for them because I thought they had proven at that point that they can win with this smaller lineup. And then we got into the playoffs, and all the concerns we initially thought would exist, they existed. They were exposed, right?
And magnified and much stronger than we thought.
Exactly. And so it's a little bit weird, but we wound up right back where we started with this period in the middle that made us feel like, oh, well, maybe that's not correct. Maybe they are better than what we were thinking. And it's just interesting. Like had that little stretch in the middle never happened, right now we'd just be saying, yeah, this is what we thought. And we knew they were going to be building for next year. And we knew the roster wasn't going to be quite complementary and they're going to have to make some changes. But they got Luka. You had to do it. And now we'll see what Rob can do this summer. But because they had that uptick after the Luka trade, because they played well, it feels like a letdown to have those kind of issues exposed in the postseason.
Yeah, I like the way you put it, because I think when the trade did go down, we had very tapered expectations. And the only reason why the expectations changed is because They changed the expectations.
Yeah.
It's like we watched them night in and night out. I remember it. Obviously, you'll remember this as well. But I think there were a couple of turning points for me. There was the game at Denver where the Lakers had struggled so much against Denver. And then out of nowhere, just completely out of nowhere, we obviously see what the Lakers end up doing. They win by 23 and Luka dominates. And it's like, all right, maybe the script that we thought, let's put that to the side for a quick second. Then they go to Oklahoma City and dominate in the first game, and the Thunder are trying to win that game. Thunder might not have anything to play for, but I think for OKC, there was some curiosity for them as well. It's the first time we're playing the Lakers. That was one of the things that I think as the regular season went, it's the first time against the Rockets with Luka and LeBron. It's the first time against the Thunder with Luka and LeBron. I think a lot of teams were curious of, okay, how do we match up against these guys? Let's get some data on them so that if we face them in the playoffs, we got something. Ironically, we never got that matchup against Minnesota until game one. And then, obviously we know how that played out. But I thought that Thunder, the 2-game set against OKC, and then Lakers blow them out. And then in the second game, Lakers aren't even playing that good of a game, and they're up one until Luka gets, tossed from the game. It's like Lakers can hang with anybody. They lock up the number 3 seed. They get the 50 wins. They get a chance to take a week off. And then they're punched in the chin in game one, and they never recover.
Yeah. And a part of me wonders, is it, beyond the weaknesses of the team, but I thought they really looked unprepared for playoff basketball in game one of the series. And like, how much of it is the basketball god said, you showed up for the playoffs, not ready to compete at a playoff intensity level. We're not letting you get away with that. So you look at the way the series was bookended. I thought the Lakers were fairly low energy in game one. And I thought game 5, they, from the opening tip, looked disinterested in getting on a flight and going back to Minnesota, which is disappointing compared to what other teams in their situation around the league did. There were a few times in the middle where I thought, game 2, game 3, where I thought, God, the Lakers should have won that game, but they just tripped over their own 2 feet. Game 2, they did win, even though it was a rock fight. But it felt like they were hurting themselves in these games, and they were causing all these problems. So it was a frustrating series in that regard, and just, it felt like they just never really got going in this series, and it was frustrating to watch for sure, and I know frustrating for Lakers fans.
I think it's a perfect transition because I want to spend a little time on this, and we don't have to rush through it. I think there's layers to this. You said they came out unprepared in game 1. You felt that in game 5 as well. Let's talk JJ, because I'm curious to get your thoughts on how much of that responsibility is on JJ Redick. I think we got the man got a lot of praise during the regular season. I think he deserved it. And I think he also got a lot of criticism in the playoffs. And I think he deserved it. If we take a step back and we are not looking at, the Lakers didn't just lose game 5 and were eliminated last night. Kind of got a chance to step back from it. Got a chance to listen to him during the exit interviews as well. He's certainly in a growth stage and trying to figure out, who he is as a head coach. There were some moments I really liked from JJ, and then there were moments the playoffs threw me off on JJ. I kind of felt almost kind of like the Lakers. I felt like I knew who the Lakers were coming into the postseason, and then all of a sudden it was a different team. I felt like I knew who JJ was coming into the postseason. I felt like he coached differently in the postseason. When you take a step back and you look at what JJ Redick accomplished in his first year as the coach of the Lakers, give me some of your thoughts and your feelings, and then incorporate the playoffs, because I don't think you can not incorporate the playoffs into that mix.
Yeah, I think JJ in a lot of ways mirrored the team in that the team's issues that we saw coming out of the Luka trade ended up getting exposed and being real come playoff time. JJ's issues coming into the season, just being a rookie head coach and everything that comes with that, didn't look bad during the season. He had a great season, I think. And then in the playoffs, you went, oh, okay, maybe there is a little bit of a lack of experience here, right? Playing 5 guys the entire second half, the decisions that he made, not playing Jack Stace, right? The buttons that JJ pressed, the gambles that he took in the series against the Wolves did not pay off. And I didn't think that would be the case. I thought if there is a path through this series, JJ Redick will find it. And instead, I thought he looked, the moves that he made him look like a rookie head coach. Now, that said, though, he also had a great regular season. And maybe this is just the lumps that come with being a rookie head coach, and you've got to learn the playoffs, and that just takes time. And so I want to be careful with JJ that we don't just look at the playoffs and say that's it. That completely erases the whole season that he had. Did he struggle in the postseason? Yes, but the bigger question is, did he learn from the postseason? That's going to be the important thing long term. How would JJ approach things differently now moving forward? So I think you're right. I think it's a bit of both. I thought he had a really good regular season. I thought he had a bad playoffs, and it's okay to acknowledge both of those things. And I don't think either one necessarily has to land us on, see, JJ's not that guy. See, JJ is that guy. He's great, all that. Overall, I think he had a very, very good season. I think he did better, especially during the regular season, than I would have expected. And I'll tell you what, the entire time he had the buy-in from that team. So that kind of stuff matters. I think that's important for the team moving forward. And it's certainly something that we've seen his predecessors lose eventually, was the buy-in from the players. But hopefully this was a learning and growing opportunity for JJ in the playoffs, and then he's able to be better next year.
So it's funny. I think JJ raised some questions that I didn't think were going to be questions coming into the offseason. And listen, only one team wins. So no matter what you accomplish, you're left with, how did your team lose at the end? Maybe if you're the Detroit Pistons, you can walk away and say, okay, hey, it's all good. Look the difference of how many wins we had last year compared to this year. They clearly are happy with their coach and their future and some of their young players. But not every team is going to end their season like that. My problem with JJ, I think, in the postseason is I almost felt like he became a different coach. That wasn't the coach that we watched for 82 games plus six preseason games. I thought one of his strengths was, I didn't feel like he was, how do I put this? I didn't feel like he was stubborn as a head coach. You know, you could see that with head coaches where they get stuck in one way and it's like, yep, we're not changing it. I'm not changing it. This is going to eventually work. All of a sudden in the playoffs, I felt like JJ, personality-wise, you know, I hated his response to when you questioned him about doing something that no other NBA coach has ever done in playoff history, which is not making a substitution in the second half. He kind of had this attitude, how dare you question me?
Right.
And I'm with you that, you know, all of that sucks because I think he did have a great regular season. And I think the taste we have in our mouth today of JJ Redick is not indicative of probably the coach that he is. And it's going to be up to him. You know, I was at the exit interview, and it was one of the questions that I asked JJ was kind of, give us your overview feeling. You went through, you had a tremendous amount of success. You were praised a ton. And now all of a sudden you're out in 5 games and you're being criticized. How do you take all of that? And he said something about the road is never supposed to be this straight road that is, you know, an easy path to get wherever you want to get to. The way he described it was, it's a windy road. He gave an example of, remember when they got eliminated and Giannis said, just because you didn't win, it doesn't mean you didn't have a successful season. Yeah. So I felt like his answer was somebody that understood. He made mistakes along the way as well. And the best thing he could do now is correct those mistakes.
Yeah. And hopefully that's what he's going to spend the offseason. I mean, there's one thing. JJ is very, very dedicated. Obviously, he's going to put in the work. And yeah, I didn't like that response either when he, stormed out at that question. Now, the implication was pretty clear from the question that he didn't really know what he was doing. So I get why he, was a little bit annoyed by it, but I also thought it showed kind of the pressure of the situation. And so I don't know.
Guys, as a funny trip, when that was all unfolding, so I had my head down and I was there, at the presser, and I had my head down. And I just had my head down. I was looking at my phone for no other reason. And as it was all unfolding, I'm like, tell me this isn't happening. And listen, the question is the question. That's whether you like the question or you don't, there are going to be questions that come to a player or a coach. And it's more about just how the player or the coach is going to react to it. And in my head, I'm like, JJ, please just bullshit your answer.
Yep.
Of course I look at my assistants. I depend on those guys so much. It's a good question. I like the question. I'm like, just bullshit the answer. And when he stormed out, I'm like, yeah, that's going to be played everywhere.
Yep.
And it's going into game 5. Like the the way that was all set up, and it was the fact how JJ responded to it, I'm like, yeah, this is not going to look good.
No, absolutely. And that's where, we can talk about the strengths and weaknesses of coaches. And one of the things that the Lakers really liked about JJ was they believed he was going to win the press conferences, that he was going to have the right answers more often than not. Might he say something fiery every now and then? Sure. And I think in general, he has done a pretty good job. But that was, again, maybe the pressure of the moment, maybe that lack of experience showing through in that moment. I think of, Frank Vogel. I mean, from covering him, that was a guy who I thought, my God, he just never gets tripped up. Aside from when he got the news that he was fired, that was so unfortunate that he got fired at the podium. That was the only time I saw Frank even like let the wall down or anything like that. He was so good at winning the press conferences. Like you threw him any curveball you wanted, and he just expertly would evade and then hit the answer out of the park. So yeah, he was fantastic at it. But JJ, again, for the most part, I thought did great in his pressers. That one situation, though, in that moment, going into Game 5, that's not where you really want the attention to be, and unfortunately, that's where it was.
What'd be awesome is if I asked you a question that you didn't like, and you just said, "Al, I'm out of here," and you left, and you just wasn't good. You just, Al, you got to be better, and then you just turn off your screen. Just send a message, Trev. Send a message to everyone. You're not putting up with this BS in the offseason.
That's right. I'm gonna find something to throw down, and then I'll set my mic down and off we go.
I'm kind of jump around a little bit here, but I'll get your thoughts on. I spent a lot of time yesterday, and I don't want people to think like I'm proposing this idea that the Lakers have to trade Austin Reaves, because I'm not proposing that. But do I have some concerns that if Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves are your starting backcourt, can you really win a championship having two players that are so one-sided on the ball? I do think that Austin Reaves gives effort on the defensive side, but I think he kind of maximized what he's able to do. And I think Luka is what he is. And I hope Luka takes this offseason and takes the criticism that he got with the Dallas Mavericks and just is a much better how do I describe it? A much better as far as conditioning and everything else. I hope he takes a lot of this stuff personally. When I tell you it's Luka and Austin Reaves in the Lakers backcourt for the next couple of years, what are some of the things that goes through your mind?
Well, I think that on the positive side, you've got a high-quality ball-handling guard on the floor for 48 minutes, right? You've got, between the two of them, and we're talking about obviously whether or not LeBron is around long-term, you've got two guys who can create, two guys who can shoot, who can pass. Obviously, Luka can do it at a higher degree than Austin Reaves can, but you've got two guys who can very competently run an offense. You've got two guys who can use angles and things like that to make up for a lack of athleticism and score the basketball. The problem is you also have two guys who struggle defensively and will get targeted on that end of the floor. Two guys who maybe are not the quickest players laterally. I mean, Luka, there were times where he looked like he was standing in mud the way he was moving in the playoffs. Now, part of that may have been due to the illness that he had in Game 3, but nonetheless, he is not an overly athletic player. And the same is true of Austin Reaves, who can get picked on defensively. And so the concern with them moving forward, and I don't know if we're at a point where we're 100%, yes, it can't work, but on paper, I think we can look at it and say it's very similar to the concerns of the D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reaves pairing, where both players are better if the player next to them is an athletic 3-and-D style player that can handle that most difficult defensive assignment, that can give you spacing, doesn't need the ball, that type of player. Like a prime Danny Green would be fantastic next to Luka. Same would be true next to Austin. It's part of the reason why we were so excited about Max Christie was, can he ultimately become that type of high-level 3-and-D guard? So that's got to be the concern for the Lakers. And then it becomes a question of, okay, if it is going to be those two in the backcourt, you really have to focus defensively on the other three positions. Your other three spots have all got to be top-tier defensive players. They got to be great. And even then, is that enough come playoff time where any kind of weak link is going to get exposed and picked at over and over and over again? Is that even conducive to postseason basketball? I think those are all questions that are not answered, but on paper, there's reason to be concerned.
How do you feel about, we got a chance to hear Pelinka in the got a chance to hear him in the exit interview, and I think there's, I think Pelinka, all these guys have, they all have. I don't question their point of they were trying to repair a plane while it was in the air. Now they got a chance to land it, and they can properly do the work. How do you feel about the offseason? Just how do you feel about, me personally? I'm excited about what I think can happen in the offseason. I'm excited about trying to build a roster as best as you can around Luka. I'm excited about their holes are so glaring. I think, Trev, sometimes it's a good thing. I think it might be a good thing for the Lakers that they didn't go 7 games against Minnesota and lost by 3 on a couple final possessions. Because I think you might bullshit yourself that, hey, we're not that far away. And but the reality is I do think they're far away from actually competing for an NBA championship. How do you feel about the offseason, about the front office, and trying to correct some of the needs that they have?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general around the NBA, we're going to see an offseason that's very filled with trade activity. There's not a lot of cap space out there, so a lot of teams
said something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think he's spot on, because there's not a lot of cap room out there for teams, and there's not a lot of players out there in free. You look at the free agent pool, it's shallow. It's really shallow. So that's going to be, I think, a challenge for the Lakers and for every team. But that means they're going to be active on the trade front. Now, I do think what's nice is it's very clear what they need. They know what they need. Everybody else knows too. But it's not like, well, we could go this direction, we could go that direction. There's a lot of, no, it's very obvious what you need to get. And now it's a matter of going out and accomplishing it. My only hesitation, Alan, is I still have a bad taste in my mouth from last summer. When last summer, I went into the summer saying the summer's a failure if they don't get a center. And I was shocked. I would have never guessed that they would sit out the offseason and they would go, nope. Not gonna do anything. Now, did it pay off? Yeah, it wound up paying off. They got Luka, right? They found the Dorian Finney-Smith trade midseason. But I think the Lakers should be aggressive. They clearly have identified their weaknesses, and I think they're correct so far in the weaknesses that they've identified. They need to try to fix those things. They have a limited number of assets to use in order to do that. But I think they know exactly what they need to do. They just need to go out there and do it. And I would be all in saying, hey, this is going to be a good summer. They're going to go get a center. They're going to go do this. They're going to do that. If we didn't have last summer where they also had very clear weaknesses that had to be addressed, and it did not happen. So I think they're going to be aggressive. I don't think we're going to see a repeat of last year, but my hesitation comes from how absolutely brutal their summer was last year.
You know what I think might play to, I think, the Lakers' advantage if you're a fan out there? Listen, I get it. There's always pressure on the Lakers. There's always going to be pressure on the front office and everything else. I think there's just pressure to accommodate the Luka right now. I think Luka, think about Luka gets traded to the Lakers. He is kind of crucified on his way out in Dallas. And I think a lot of the attention was, you almost felt bad for Luka because of the predicament of the situation. But by the end of the season, there's also a lot of criticism towards Luka. Hey, Luka, you got to get in better shape. Hey, Luka, you got to do more. And I think that's going to fall more on the front office to make sure that they're putting Luka in the best position to win. And I think that means this is an offseason where if you had LeBron and Anthony Davis for X amount of years and you probably felt like you already got the best of it and you had to be very, very wise with your assets because you didn't know at any point kind of what's to come and what the future was going to be, kind of got to put all your chips on the table right now for Luka. So I think that kind of plays to the benefit. It would be very, very difficult for me. And I think, Pelinka's already promising things that they're going to correct what they need to correct. I have a very difficult time thinking you and I by August 1st, we're sitting there and we're saying, can you believe they didn't address this? They didn't address that.
Right. Especially when they're going to Luka there the next day and saying, here, sign this extension. Right. Yeah. So, I would be very surprised. And look, they thought they already got Luka. Obviously, they're willing to go all in. They sacrificed their last 2 big assets, right? Their 2031 pick, even a pick swap was in there too, plus Dalton Connect. Those are their big tradable assets aside from, Austin Reaves. We had that conversation. That's a different thing. But those are their 2 big, clearly tradable assets. And they were willing to push those into the middle of the table for what they thought was going to be their next long-term center. And Mark Williams, obviously that didn't work out, but we saw that the Lakers were willing to do that. And so I think that's where we're going to head into the summer too, is where they're willing to make those moves if they can land the pieces. And I don't think LeBron is not part of that, dynamic, of that decision-making process. It is still, we've got LeBron. He's 40. He's still playing at a high level. We want to win right now for him. But the number one decision maker now is, does this player fit? Whatever we're doing, does this move fit Luka's long-term timeline? And again, we've seen them already willing to go all in. How did Anthony Davis feel, by the way, when they trade him? He's been begging for years for a center, and a few days later, they're like, "Oh, Luka wants a center? Cool, here you go. Let's cash in those chips." But I do think with Luka, they're willing to make those moves, and so I would again be very surprised if they went there empty-handed to Luka on August 2nd to get him to sign that extension.
How do you think Bron handles? How do you think that's handled in the offseason? What do you think happens? And I'm not even talking the Lakers. I'm really just talking about, what do you think Bron wants in the offseason? Do you think he plays out the final year, or do you think he restructures his contract again?
My hope is that he plays out the final year, that he either picks up his player option or does a new 1-year deal. I mean, he could do a 1+1, I suppose, but they've got a bunch of cap space in 2026. I wouldn't put it past LeBron to have kind of a farewell tour. I think that may very well be this next season. I've got a lot of people saying, though, oh, no, they need LeBron to go. The challenge is, if LeBron were to say, that's it, I'm out, and walk away right now, you're going to bring back a very similar team to last season, just without LeBron. I don't think you're better. I've got people that are, oh, LeBron's so awful, he's terrible, he's not that guy anymore, blah, 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 all this stuff. I'm like, I don't think you're watching the right thing here. If you're saying LeBron was awful, LeBron didn't help this team and all that kind of stuff, I think you're looking for opportunities to take shots at the guy. But I will say, if you told me there's an opportunity to pivot this team totally towards Luka, okay, let's talk about that then. I just don't think that opportunity is there this summer. I think next summer it is. Next summer it is, with the way the cap is lined up currently. So this summer, I don't think they get better by losing LeBron. And from a financial perspective, losing him would be a disaster. I mean, that there's no question. So I do think the hope has got to be that he plays out one more year. The perfect world, Alan, would be LeBron even takes less. So that they can open up a full mid-level exception, and there you go. But so far the reporting's been that that's not what he's going to do, unfortunately.
All right, let's say he signed that 2-year, because I think, don't be surprised if he does what he's done now for years, which is always rip up the contract, sign a 1+1. If he's on the roster for 2 more years, and that cap space that you're talking about available in 2026 is not there, just what do you make of that scenario if LeBron? Because listen, LeBron can sit here and continue to make the case, I'm still playing at a high enough level. Obviously, he's still box office, still selling tickets, all that stuff. All right, let's say we're sitting here a year from today, and we know LeBron's coming back for another year, 2 more years total. Just your thoughts on that, and then and what that picture would look like.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the situation that they're in, and let's say this year you give LeBron a 2-year deal again, player option on the second year, and he picks up that player option next summer, and then he's back for another year. I mean, look, people, we focus so much on what happened in the playoffs, and all everybody remembers is, oh, they struggled in the fourth quarter. Yeah, they were awful in the fourth quarter, but we're letting that erase everything that happened over the course of the season, in which LeBron was really good. And let's not forget that he completely shifted his role with the Luka trade, went from having the ball in his hands all the time to being, he took over Anthony Davis's job. That's what he did defensively, was take over Anthony Davis's job. And there were some games where that was good, some games where that wasn't, but that was a big shift. So I think if we're writing off LeBron already and assuming that he just can't play at that level anymore, it's premature to do that. So if we do wind up in that situation, the hope has got to be that he's still playing at a very high level, that he picks up that option for a year, and then maybe it's the next year that you fully kind of go all in on a post-LeBron era. And that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, as long as between now and then, every move that you make has to be Luka-centric, has to be, how is this roster going to be built around Luka moving forward? Now, ideally, would you have a bunch of 25-year-old super springy athletes that can fly up and down the floor?
Sure.
And is that LeBron? No, not at this point. But I'm not going to look at LeBron James and say, well, he's a little bit slower now, he can't be a good basketball player. No, he's still excellent. He's still one of the best players in the league. I mean, what is he? Top 15 at worst in the NBA right now?
Yeah.
Like, and I've got people acting like he's just washed and he's terrible and no, oh my God, they have to get him off the roster and stuff. It's crazy.
Well, if you look at what he was doing before the injury against the Celtics, remember against Celtics, he's out for 2 weeks. Before that injury, I think you're probably saying he was playing top 7, top 8 in the league. He really was. I mean, that's just kind of the reality of it. All right, brother. Great stuff. It's fun last night. We do it in the morning. I think we're seeing each other more than family members, but but we're enjoying having the conversation. I appreciate you taking some time coming on, buddy.
That's right. Hey, it was a lot of fun, man, and thank you for having me on here. And hey, anytime. Always happy to talk Lakers basketball with you, Alan.
Well, we'll talk soon. We'll be back doing this in the next couple of weeks or so. So thank you for coming on, buddy.
Hey, thanks.
All right, that is Trevor Lane, Lakers Nation. Trevor Lane making it happen. Good work, Trevor Lane. All right, there's a lot of good stuff right there. You know, I know that anytime I bring Trevor on, he'll be honest about his opinion and his thoughts on the Lakers, and obviously we're talking about the NBA as well in that mix as well. So great stuff there from Trevor. Okay, let me squeeze in a couple comments here. If you guys got some thoughts, throw it in. I don't know. People are fighting on. I don't know what's going on. People are fighting about the New York and how. You guys go ahead and figure that one out on your own. Just finished watching the latest Mind the Game episode. My takeaway is that LeBron and the team really believes in JJ, and it was more of a roster issue than coaching. Minnesota was better. Also, F Boston. Eugene, thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for being a member, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. You know, I'm going to have to catch up on that Mind the Game episode, especially if they're talking about the series against Minnesota. So we'll have to do that. And by the way, JJ mentioned it in his exit presser. He's like, hey, it's hard to admit it. Minnesota was the better team. They were the better team. The frustration is you're watching them already against Golden State. Golden State is out coaching them, higher IQ, just playing better basketball. It's only one game, but they won one game on the road without Steph Curry for other than 13 minutes. So either Minnesota got to get its ish together, or if Golden State just handles them, there's going to be a little bit of a feeling of like, well, what the hell were the Lakers doing? All right, let's see. Why does LP only show games up to 2012, 2013? Need my Laker fix, and I would pay to rewatch the whole 08, 09, and 9-10 season. So that's the Lakers Magic finals and then the Lakers Celtics finals. Okay. Thank you, Eugene. I appreciate the 2 supers that you threw in there. Blaming the T for being late again. What are you talking about late? I was 8 a.m. on the dot. Astrohead. Thank you, Astro. By the way, been a member for 3 months. Thank you for being a member. Your ass was late. I wasn't late. It's 8 a.m. on the dot. Trying to throw me under the bus here on my own show. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you being a part of the show. Okay, let me jump around here because there are a couple more comments that I do want to get into real quick. Oh, I'm sorry, a couple more topics that I want to get into real quick. Let me just read a couple things here. And then let me see if I could find it here. Yesterday, I did a topic on Austin Reaves, and I was asking Laker fans. I'm going to go back and read a couple comments from there just because, like I said, listen, if you guys are going out of your way to respond and you guys are going out of your way in some of these videos to give your opinion and your thoughts, I want to make sure that I'm also properly giving my thoughts on it as well. The topic came up yesterday about Austin Reaves. You know what? Why not share my video with you guys? Let's share. We can all be in on this together. We could do this together. A lot of comments on what the Lakers should do on the Austin Reaves front. A lot of comments. A lot of people gave their opinion. And again, all I want to do here is I like getting a pulse. I like getting a pulse of what people think. And I think I was able to kind of get a little bit of a piece here. So here was the topic. Can Lakers build a championship contender with Luka and Reaves in the backcourt? And then the thumbnail basically said, should the Lakers shop Austin Reaves? A lot of comments. I told you guys, that's 94 comments. If you got anything over 30, 40 comments, that means that's a topic that people definitely have an opinion on, and you got something there. Let me read some of the comments here. Shop the F out of Reaves, please. How many years more were you seeing Reaves getting bullied in the paint? As long as Genie Bus values the Rambus opinion the Lakers are doing, I'm just going to kind of go up and down. Can't win a championship if your first and third options are liabilities on defense. Reaves choked in the playoffs. Reaves can't play with Luka in the playoffs. He has to go. I just want to give you guys a vibe of what some of these comments are. And I'm not telling you every comment is like this, but there's a lot of comments that are like this. So it's something to just kind of keep in mind here. Let me see if I can find it better. We'll do it that way. You guys, I know you guys love looking at this mug, so I got to make it as big as possible. Here's one I would say a little bit more in favor of Austin Reaves. With his contract, he's worth keeping, but he's got to take the sixth man role. Makes no sense to start him with Luka and Bron, but if you can't get Walker Kessler for Reaves somehow, I'll piggyback from there myself. By the way, if you wanted Walker Kessler for Reaves, you would be able to make that happen. I think Danny Ainge would do a deal like that. I think you got to hold on to Austin Reaves for a bigger package personally. Austin Reaves is a wonderful, dedicated player. Problem, he's willing but not able to be a plus defender. Would like to keep him, but as a bench piece. He can't defend. He can't rebound. Even with roster improvements, if this coaching staff is like 5% better, nothing changes. Luka at $48 million. LeBron at $54. Reaves at $30. Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, I think you guys kind of get an idea of where that conversation was going, and it gives everyone just kind of a good idea of how people felt. It gives people a good idea of just, like I said, of their thought process and how they feel in regards to Austin Reaves. I will say this. I don't think a lot of people are talking about Austin Reaves because they don't like him. I think a lot of people are talking about Austin Reaves for two reasons. Number one, he didn't have a good playoff run, period. Like he did not have a good playoff run. But I think they're more talking about Austin Reaves because they're saying to themselves, can you have Austin Reaves and Luka Doncic on the same team and be a true championship contender? That's a fair question. It's a fair question. And if your thought process is you want to build around Luka, you don't have all that many assets here. So is one of the assets that you're using in order to accomplish that goal, is it using Austin Reaves? I also think is a fair question. Let's see what the front office does. I think there is going to be, a little bit from that perspective where we all kind of sit here and we ask the question and we pay attention to what the Lakers do in the front office. I don't think they're going to trade Austin Reaves, and I don't think that's going to happen this summer as well. But I think something to keep an eye on. Trevor and I were actually talking about this yesterday when we were on his podcast. I think something to keep an eye on with Austin Reaves. It's up to the front office to build a team where they can use Austin Reaves and Luka as they can get help on the defensive side, like real help on the defensive side. I think that's number one. And I think number two to keep in mind in regards to that, I think there's also a little bit of, well, let's see if you actually get a center and you get some other wings and all of a sudden the roster looks a lot better, well, then you could kind of assess everything getting closer to the NBA trade deadline. Because here's what's going to happen with Austin Reaves. He's going to get paid. He's going to get about 30 a year. I think he's going to get about 4 years, 120 mil. If he gets to the open market, that's what he's going to get. I think Lakers can offer him 4 for 90, but I don't think he's going to take that. I think he's going to go get paid. And by the way, he should go get paid. The question is going to be, do you want that much of resources going to those two players? I'm talking about Luka and Austin Reaves, knowing that backcourt is going to have a difficulty stopping anybody. So we'll obviously see what the Lakers are going to do. If you're talking about Austin Reaves and you think nobody's going to pay him, I don't know what to tell you, brother. Go look at some contracts around the NBA. There are players not as good as Austin Reaves that are getting paid $30 million a year. That's just the going market. If you want to go out and go drive around Southern California, go download Redfin, and you could go look at homes for sale, and you're going to say, that home, that 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot home is not worth $1.1 million. It's worth $1.1 million when somebody offers $1.1 million. Somebody's going to offer Austin Reaves that money. That's just the market. That's just the price of doing business in today's NBA. And Austin Reaves is a really, really good player. The question is more about the fit. And I think that's going to be the question as the Lakers obviously try to build a roster around, obviously Luka Doncic moving forward. We'll see what eventually happens. But I wanted to get some of those comments in there because I think they were good. I think a lot of people gave their opinion, had their thoughts on it. And I wanted to go back to that video there real quick and share it. 1.1. What the hell's going on with that? I mean, really? Homes are 1,200 square feet. The mortgages are $10,000 a month. What the hell are you talking about? That's the price of doing business in the market. That is the price of doing business in the market. I don't know if you guys saw this. I'm going to jump around a little bit here. HH, thank you, brother. I appreciate the super. Thank you very much, brother. Very nice of you to do that. HH lobbing in some supers here for a couple of months now. So thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Let me get another topic in here, and then I want to just look at the NBA schedule for tonight. I got one quick thing on the Thunder and the Denver Nuggets, and then we'll call it a day. I don't know if you guys saw this. Rich Paul was on, let me just make sure that I got this right. Paul, obviously the CEO of Clutch Sports, was on Chris Haynes' podcast. And a question came up about the Anthony Davis-Luka Doncic trade. And the question was more about, Anthony Davis, like how much pressure is it on AD to make this work in Dallas? How much pressure is on Anthony Davis, to make the Dallas Mavericks not look as dumb as everybody has viewed them to be since they traded for Luka? Let me read a quote here. I think this was interesting what he said. He said, and again, the question is, Rich Paul reps Anthony Davis. I'm reading this from Chris Haynes on Twitter. If there's pressure on AD to prove he's worthy of being traded for Luka Doncic, you know what? Let me actually do this. Let me share this. That way you guys can hear the audio with me. I think rather than me just playing it, let's actually play Rich Paul in this audio because I think it's a good enough piece to play. Let me share this with you guys again. And Chris Haynes is going to actually set this up with the question so you guys can actually hear the question as well. Take a listen to Chris Haynes.
Always going to be something people monitor as far as who's going to get the best of this deal. AD, if he doesn't showcase himself to be someone worthy of being included in this trade for Luka.
That's not on the players. Those guys can go out and score 30 and 40 and 50. It's a race of the front offices, right? Who's going to make the proper moves for each one of those guys to be successful? As much as you want to lean on how great an individual was and or is, you also have to factor in the decision makers to help place the proper pieces around them. Yeah, we're going to always have the conversation about the top players, and it should be about the top players, but you always have to look into what takes place. I'm watching with my popcorn. They have 9 other steps. And so, again, you have to talk about it on these shows, but everybody has so far to go.
All right, that's Rich Paul on with Chris Haynes. So I really, really agree with Rich Paul on this. When you start looking at, Anthony Davis can sit back and feel a lot of pressure and say, oh my God, I'm going to be remembered as the player that was traded for Luka Doncic. And I think Rich Paul's point about, and by the way, the Luka thing I think is going to be interesting as well that plays out for the Lakers. Listen, Luka's first couple of months with the Lakers was not the smoothest. I mean, Luka's also getting criticism that I don't think he's ever felt before, at least not on this stage because he's a Los Angeles Laker. There's criticism on both sides. There's criticism from the Dallas Mavericks for saying, why would you trade Luka at this age? There's also criticism with the Lakers right now and Luka saying, Luka, you got to get in better shape. You're now on a franchise that expects you to win championships. If you want to be a legend in LA and represent that franchise, go look at all the other players that have been here. I mean, LeBron won the Lakers a championship, and he's getting crucified after every game and after every playoff series because people say that's not enough. Kobe and Shaq, obviously Kareem and Magic and Jerry West and Wilt. Go down the list of all these other greats. Pau Gasol came here and was, it's like, Pau, who cares what you did in Memphis? You come to the Lakers, you better start winning championships. All right, 1, 2 of them, got to 3 NBA finals. But I think Rich Paul's point that he's trying to make is at the end of the day, it comes down to your front office. He's not wrong there because you could trade for Anthony Davis, but if the right pieces aren't there, if you invested in the players that are more injury prone, as Anthony Davis is, Nico Harrison's going to look like an idiot, and some of that's going to fall on Anthony Davis, but I think more of it's going to fall in the front office. You could trade for Luka Doncic if you don't have a size, if you don't have a center, if you don't have rebounders, if you have a backcourt where you feel like you're not going to have enough guys playing defense. Well, Luka can't accommodate all that stuff. Luka's got to worry about Rob Pelinka in the front office accommodating to it. So I like that quote from Rich Paul. I think he is right. Is there pressure on Anthony Davis? Sure, but I think the pressure is more going to fall on the front office. Is there pressure on Luka Doncic? 100% there is. And there's also going to be pressure on Rob Pelinka, and it's up for Pelinka and Luka to kind of figure out what's the best solution for the Lakers. How do they build around Luka? How does Luka get in better shape? I think all that's going to become a question as we go. All right, we'll take a look at a couple comments here, and then we'll go from there. Let's see what we got here. Rich Paul is the same man that said Chris Bosh is a role player. Well, I will tell you this: Chris Bosh played a role for the Miami Heat. He's not a role player, but he played a specific role for the Miami Heat. He was smart enough and good enough and talented enough to kind of adjust his game because he knew he was playing with Dwayne Wade and with LeBron James. Reaves, Luka, and Bron front court sucks on defense. You better have a perfect roster if that's going to be your backcourt. I will tell you that. They were fine with Reaves because we had other guys, so it showed we can disguise Reaves defensively solutions to get the whole enjoying his production. Yeah, I mean, listen. Don't forget this. Before the Lakers traded for Luka, Anthony Davis was there. Max Christie was there. You had a more complete team. And that's the point of what the Lakers got to accomplish this offseason with the front office. You better have a more complete team. Because if you don't, then, these conversations are only going to get louder in regards to what you think of the role players and how you view players like Austin Reaves. All right, couple other things here, and this is just going to be on the NBA front of what we got going on tonight. Obviously, there's some games that will be going on. Before we do so, as we do in every one of these shows, I want to give a shout-out to our partner. A shout-out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, partner here for the last couple of months of the Sliwa show. Shout-out to him for supporting the channel. I just want to give everybody a heads up on this. If you run into something, a family member runs into something, and you're looking for an injury attorney in Southern California, really in the state of California, you can help anybody in the state of California. SoCal specifically, you're driving around, you got a lot of different options that are out there. I can tell you firsthand, this is somebody that I know personally, somebody that I can make an introduction to through an email, or you can go to a URL that we created, wallacewins.com/Sliwa, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. I also got a link in the description here. All I'm basically asking you to do is if you run into a predicament or a situation or a family member does, try Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. I could tell you firsthand, I could give you specific examples. He was working on a case against Home Depot. By the way, they won that case. And that has a lot to do with his closing arguments that he had out in Van Nuys in the courthouse in LA County. Jury delivered a $4.6 million verdict on behalf of the Wallace firm, found Home Depot responsible for nearly $3 million of that amount. He's the best in the business. And I will tell you, there are obviously a lot that will say that. He actually speaks it. He walks it. And again, I hope nobody's ever in a situation or predicament that you need him. But things in life happen, and you got a serious case in front of you. Get the best in the business. Get a free consultation. And like I said, you could go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa, or I can make a personal introduction. He can help anybody in the state of California. Okay, couple things here. I just want to hit on a couple of the NBA front, what we had yesterday and then what we had today. Already did the Knicks and obviously I already did that game. We already talked about it, the Knicks and the Celtics. Knicks up 2-0. Nuggets get handed to them. They give up 46 points, 45 points in the first quarter, 42 in the second quarter, 37 in the third quarter. They give up 149 points. I don't know what last night was for Denver. It could very well have been, we got game one. We just had to go through 7 games against the Los Angeles Clippers, and we're happy with being tied 1 apiece. We're going back home to Denver. Or was last night the Oklahoma City Thunder saying, Shea said something after game 1, and he said, we're going to find out who we are. Because either we respond and we're the 68-win team that they had in the regular season, or we don't respond and we're not that team. Well, they dropped 149, but the series is tied 1 apiece. So OKC responds. Denver very happy to go home, tied 1 apiece. See what happens. I still give OKC the edge in this series. But Denver did exactly what they were supposed to do. They have the experience. They're going to go back to Denver. And if they go back to OKC tied 2 apiece, I still kind of think you're okay with that as well if you're Denver. You're just trying to extend the series, put more and more pressure on the Thunder, and see what eventually happens. The other game tonight, it's the only game. It's a standalone game at 5:30 tonight. It's the Warriors and the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you guys didn't see the news in regards to Steph Curry, when I finished the show yesterday, the story had come out. So it's something to just keep in mind here. Steph Curry out at least a week with a hamstring strain. If the Minnesota Timberwolves can't find a way to win games against the Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry, then I will just feel more and more insecure about the Los Angeles Lakers losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota's been really bad in their last 2 games. The difference is, as bad as they were in game 5 against the Lakers, they still won that game. They were horrible in game 1 against the Golden State Warriors, and they were, outplayed the entire way. But I do know this. Steph Curry's out. He's out for a second here. I was reading something. Steve Kerr said something. I think you literally just got to take it one game at a time, and we can't. I know there's a 3-day break between games 5 and 6, and everyone's saying maybe those 3 days, perhaps Curry returns. We can't afford to think about that. They're going to try to, their whole goal in these next 3 games is be tied 2 apiece as you get ready for game 5, and then see if, obviously Steph Curry is back or not. So we'll see how they respond. Minnesota made the Lakers look like they were nothing in 5 games, and then all of a sudden the Golden State Warriors jump all over them in the first game. Let me read a couple comments, and then we're going to call it a day here. What am I? Buck 12 here. Can't wait to see how the series plays out. I think the Nuggets are going to get dominated in Denver as well. Let's see. Got some people. I like pizza. Luka needs to cut down on pizza. Okay. Thank you for your insight there. I got a lot of Knicks fans that I think they're Laker fans that just became Knicks fans because of the Celtics. OKC dominated. The stars are realigned once again. All right. So everybody giving their opinions here. And then also people are telling me that there's a new pope. Okay. All right. We got all that. All right. We are, I think we are good to go. I appreciate you guys hanging out today. Like I said from the beginning, I love that there's an audience here that is also spending a lot of time talking some hoops with me and just some NBA in general. So thank you very much for being here. Like I mentioned from the beginning, if you guys don't mind subscribing to the channel, we'd greatly appreciate it. Shout out to anyone who sent out a super chat. Shout out to anyone that just is just a part of the show and hanging out here. Thank you to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm for the partnership, and shout out to Trevor Lane for joining the show as well. Thank you, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Thank you, everybody.